Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Michael.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks to Josephine, who has been coaching me and helping me get through how to use this Adobe Connect. And I'm thrilled to have been asked to speak a little bit about the Go project. And I have to say, I'm rather nervous, which doesn't happen to me very often, but to be speaking to people who you can't see and not sure how they're feeling, it's kind of interesting. So, yeah, send me some smiles or some frowns if you're it's not going so great for you. I want to know. So just to start off, try to get everybody on the same page. I know that quite some of you know about the Go project and other people might not. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about its history and its background. So the Go project started 6 years ago in a response to the United Church of Canada's yearning for young people to be involved in mission and outreach opportunities across our country, but also to be able to respond to the needs of their home community and to understand sort of where they might live out God's call in their home church, school, or community's life. So tonight, I'm going to bring you through the aspects of the Go project that are specifically focused on discernment and integration of Go project experiences. So I'm assuming that people might understand a little bit about the Go project. And if you need a little bit more than what I've said, just type in the box and I can give you a little bit more. But basically, youth come to one of 4 Canadian cities: Halifax, Vancouver, Toronto, or St. John's. And in those cities, they engage service opportunities such as working in a food bank, working in a community garden, working with youth, children, seniors, doing environmental service projects like creek cleanups, beach cleanups. So there's tons of different ways for young people to be involved in existing programs in existing church contexts. And through those experiences, youth work through some workshops which the Go project organizes to allow people to respond to these needs. So tonight I'm going to take you through those workshops because I believe that these workshops can be used not just in a context of youth mission outreach summer programs, but also in all the kind of contexts that we live in the church. So tonight you may want to just have, it doesn't even have to be a large sheet of paper, but you may want to have just a piece of paper beside you to take some notes or perhaps do some drawing or that kind of thing. So marker, crayon, pencil crayon, anything will do, pen and paper. So just to have that handy. I have a candle burning right here beside me, and I just find that helps me to stay grounded in this time together, that Christ is at the center of our listening and our sharing. And I know that I'm the one doing most of the speaking and others are doing a lot of listening, but I hope to be able to listen to you as you type in your words and your questions. And I know that God is at the center of all of that. So the Go project is all about more time in existing congregational community partnerships. It's about less work for church youth leaders, which allows them to have more time building relationships with their youth. So if you're a youth programmer, then you know that it's very difficult to build those relationships because you're so busy, getting the paint and getting the paper and running around and making sure there's food. The Go project allows you to just focus on relationship building. It's a program that's grounded in the United Church of Canada theology and ethos. The Go project programs are geared towards individual youth's experiences, so we really want to match the needs of young people and allow them to meet the program where they're at. And it's a time for youth to discern about their home community. So the Go project youth engage in the world. Go project youth become a positive presence in the world around them. Go project youth serve God by discerning how to serve their home community. And the Go project invites youth and adults to join us this summer to grapple with these hard questions with other youth and adults. The Go project invites you to join us this summer to explore what God's mission means in your context. You are invited to join us for 11 days to be a part of something that is inspired by the Holy One. So, as you heard, we have mission sites in Toronto, Vancouver, St. John's, and Halifax. The program began 6 years ago here in Toronto and expanded from Toronto to Halifax in our second year, moving from Halifax out to the West Coast at Ryerson United Church in Vancouver. And then finally, last summer, we began a program in St. John's, Newfoundland. These are the programs that we have again this summer, as well as an added adult Go project in Halifax. And I'm going to throw up a slide in a little bit about the dates for those for you to have a look at. So more mission sites mean deeper and diverse experiences for our participants. It means wider relationships and networks for our church community. It allows youth to be a leader among United Church of Canada congregations. It celebrates our differences, and it clarifies our future vision. So here are the dates for our programs, and you can access all of this information on our website at www.thegoproject.ca. And for our adult program, you just add a / after that, adult go. So when you get to these green slides, if there's any questions, and you can type questions to Josephine, and she's going to filter them over to me. So I'm just going to pause on these green Go Project slides, and if you do have a question, I'd be happy to answer it at this point or to carry on. So there's quite a few chances. So I'm assuming, Josephine, there's no questions, so I can keep going.
There are no questions.
So the stories of Christ impact how we understand our sense of calling in the world and our sense of mission in the church. And so throughout this workshop, we're going to be touching on a lot of different stories of how Christ has impacted our Christian narrative and our sense of theology and how we live that out in the world. As many of you may know, for young people, they're a little newer to encountering stories of Christ than some of us older folks, and it's just an opportunity for young people to become more aware. For me personally, the life of Christ is an example of how we can live in the world of justice and fairness and equality, and this informs how I act in the world and how I behave in the world. So I want to begin this. I see that Sue Howard has no sound there, Josephine. So pilgrimage. 2 years ago, my partner and I went to walk on the Camino de Santiago in Spain. And I'm not sure if people can still hear me or what's happening here. So.
Yeah, I can still hear you, Michael.
Okay,
I think
thanks,
it's...
So pilgrimage. 2 years ago, my partner and I walked on the Camino de Santiago in Spain, which is this walking pilgrimage. And it allows people to encounter their story while encountering the Spanish pilgrimage story, which is following the way of St. James. And while I was walking on this pilgrimage, I began to wonder, how is the Go Project a pilgrimage experience? And I believe that it indeed is a pilgrimage experience, because a pilgrimage is when you leave your home and remove yourself from your home context and walk out into the world in a way that's not so certain. The Go Project is an opportunity for young people to remove themselves from their home experience and live in the world for a while in a different way. During the 11 days of the Go Project, young people can come and immerse themselves in these mission opportunities, which I've talked about, which act as a lens for them to understand God's calling in their life more deeply. Pilgrimage is important because when we arrive at our destination, we often arrive fatigued and tired. Our feet might be sore, our hands might be sore, our back might be sore. And this is the kind of experience that allows God's Spirit to break in to us, to open us up to the desires that God might have for us in the world. And I believe the Go Project acts as a pilgrimage experience in the church. So on the Go Project, the first stage of our workshops is called Knowing Your Story. I really love this quote from Alice in Wonderland, and it says, "Who are you?" said the caterpillar. I hardly know, sir, just at present," Alice replied rather shyly. "At least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have been changed several times since then." I think that this is something that each of us encounter, whether youth or adult in the world, as we encounter people and situations, we are definitely changed. During the Go Project program, I believe that the experience of change is heightened as youth and adults are encountering experiences that they would not have ever had a chance to. Many of our young people coming on the Go Project have never met someone who lives on the street, have never met someone from a different culture, and have never been in a food bank. All of these experiences challenge our young people to compare what they're seeing in the world with their own story. Knowing who we are is important into understanding how God is active in our life. There's a great author, his name is Don Richter, and he uses the different parts of our bodies as ways to understand how we might serve in the world. And his book is called Mission Trips That Matter. And it's a great book, and there's definitely great pieces of inspiration from it. And so these next few slides help us to understand our story and how our bodies are involved in service. So the first thing that Don encourages us to do is to have attentive eyes. Visioning begins with letting go. So there's this great piece of poem, a great poem here for you. It doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in a vacant lot or a few small stones. Just pay attention, then patch a few words together, and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but a doorway into thanks and a silence in which another voice may speak. So I wonder what people can see in this picture, and I invite you just to type down what you see. So I'll give you a minute to do that.
Just to give you a hint, you can enlarge your image if that helps you to answer Michael's question by clicking the full screen button on the PowerPoint pod there. That doesn't change anything. Michael and I and everything that you see currently will still be here in the background, but it'll temporarily allow you to see the full image.
So Hillary typed, lots of people that don't think their actions will make a difference in the world. In this picture, we see some greenery, some overgrown shrubs. We see some garbage that has been thrown down on the ground. But I wonder if anybody has noticed the blue iris that's growing in this picture. It's right above the word gratitude. Don Richter encourages us to have attentive eyes when we see in the world. He encourages us to challenge the preconceptions that we have that stop us from paying attention to what we might see. We might see this vacant lot, which is actually just down the street from my church. And it challenges me to think, what am I grateful for? So we can have gratitude for the obvious, which is the blue iris. But these pebbles and weeds can be a doorway into prayer and can be a doorway into action in the church and in the world. We're encouraged to have attuned ears. We're encouraged to tune in. So much in our world, we're surrounded by devices that dislocate us from our surroundings. So, for instance, the cell phone or the iPod. And the cell phone speaks for the need for intimacy, our need for connectedness. The iPod speaks for our need for fidelity. We want to have our music there. We want to know that it's going to be there for us when we need it at our beck and call. You know, when I get stressed out, I need to sing a few songs from the musical Rent just to make myself feel better, and I have that on my phone, and I need that there just to sort of reassure me. These devices help us to stay connected. We can use this idea of having attuned ears to help us to realize what it is that we need to stay connected to while we're serving. And in what ways do we need fidelity, and how are these two pieces important? We're encouraged while serving to have sturdy backs. And this next story that I'm going to tell you challenges us to think about who is serving whom in our situations. There's a story that Don Richter tells in his book on page 87 of a time when he was out collecting during a canned food drive with his youth group. And they were going door to door and they were receiving goods from various homes. And they came to a house. And before going up to the door, the youth said, no, we can't go up to this house because the people that live at that house, they receive food from the food bank. The youth leader challenged them to go to the door, and when they did, the family opened the door and they gave generously and from the heart, and they said, thank you so much. We know exactly what's needed at this food program. And so they gave all that they could. Jesus calls everyone to follow and to serve him as a disciple. And one of the most important faith lessons we learn is how to receive hospitality and gifts from others. So I invite you to think, how is it that your faith is challenged through a physical act? In this story, we heard the youth going out into the world and working and collecting up these goods from different homes, a physical act. In what ways in your own life has your faith been challenged through a physical act? We're encouraged while we serve to have beautiful feet, to practice catch and release. And I use this word catch and release, referring to the story of the great catch of fish. You may remember in Luke 4, chapter 18, the disciples, they're working, they're toiling, they're sweating, trying to bring in this fish, but there are no fish in the net, and they can't know what to do. And Jesus said to them simply, turn and reach to the other side, cast your net on the other side of the boat. And they pull in something like 159 fish, almost swamping their ship. How can we free ourselves from the nets that enslave us? In this example, Don Richter challenges us to think of the net in socio and political terms, that sometimes we're always on one side of the boat, and perhaps we need to throw the net onto the other side of the boat and to be free from all the things that enslave us, so that we can use our feet to walk in the world, that we can be free from enslavement. We're encouraged to have open hands, and that's the gift of Sabbath. In Deuteronomy, it talks about the Sabbath and how to live out on the Sabbath. And one of my favorite authors, Abraham Heschel, talks about the concept of Sabbath and what God was talking about. And he talks about how on the Sabbath, we should make love, and we should eat together, and we should pray together, and we should rest and relax. And what a radical concept this is, to open our hands, open them up to the Sabbath. I wonder, in what ways do we sacrifice our open hands by not practicing the Sabbath? And are we able to serve if we haven't taken time to open our hands to give thanks? To serve in the world, we need to have courageous lips. Jesus promotes a radical, open eating program that upsets religious authorities. To share food with others is to share humanity with them. One of my favorite stories from Scripture is the story of Zacchaeus. You may remember, Zacchaeus is up in a tree. He's heard that this guy, Jesus, is going to be coming to town. He's trying to catch a glimpse. He's looking on, and Jesus comes. And Jesus spots this man in a tree. And he invites him to come down from that tree and invites himself over to dinner. Now, while Zacchaeus and Jesus are eating together, a miraculous thing happens. Jesus goes from being the guest to being the host. And in this radical role reversal, Zacchaeus' eyes are open and his heart is freed from all the things that he had done in his life as a tax collector and the ways he had treated people. And the next day he has this radical transformation where he gives back tenfold all that he's ever taken. I wonder, when was the last time you experienced a role reversal? How can we extend the table to those we meet? Any questions?
Well, I don't see any questions so far, Michael, but we've had a few more people joining us, which is great to see. And I like the concept of role reversal.
Okay. I'm assuming folks are still out there. I'm feeling all alone. So the second stage in our Go Project workshops is knowing our common story. So we've used our attentive eyes, our attuned ears, our sturdy backs, our beautiful feet, our open hands, our courageous lips to understand our own story. Who are we? What makes us up? What are the experiences in our lives? The second stage of our Go Project workshops, as we work through the different mission sites and the program of the Go Projects, is knowing our common story. And for me, our common story is found in our scripture, in the story of our church, the stories of our faith. One Go Project participant said, "I'm called to mission because we are one people. We are so alike and together yet have so much to learn from each other." And this tells us a lot about our common story, the stories of our faith, the stories of Christ that inform us how to live, stories of tables being turned over, stories of bread being broken and feeding 5,000 on the side of a mountain, stories of people being healed. And these are all ways that we can be active in the world and serve in the world. So that's the second part. I see Ronnie as talking about her group last year experiencing a role reversal, and I know Ronnie brought a group from Mississauga to the Halifax program when they experienced the Food Not Bombs program. They invited them into their kitchen and they shared their food with us. So maybe if you have questions, you can email Ronnie or type to Ronnie, and she can tell you a little bit more about role reversals that her group experienced in the Go Project last year. So, to know our own story, we have to take time to listen to the stories of another. Our first task in approaching another people, another culture, another religion is to take off our shoes, for the ground, the place we are standing, is holy. Else we may find ourselves treading on another's dream. More mysterious still, we may forget that God was there before our arrival. On the Go Project, youth are encouraged to become sleuths, almost spies in their community. We encourage them actually to go out and eavesdrop. We give them a bus pass and onto a public transit they go, and they're invited to listen in on the conversations of others. And we invite them to do this in a very holy way, in a very respectful way. And the goal of this is to discover what are at the depth of people's hearts in the community that they're serving. What are the stories? What are the happinesses and the joys and the sorrows? What are the longings? For when we hear the stories of another, we're able to understand and unpack our own story a little bit more. One of my favorite passages is from Philippians, and it says, "Finally, my brothers and sisters, your thoughts should be wholly directed to all that is true, all that deserves respect, all that is honest, pure, decent, admirable, virtuous, and worthy of praise. Live according to what you have learned and accepted, what you have heard me say and seen me do. Then will the God of peace be with you." So once the youth have had a chance to unpack their own story, the story from their home community, and once they've had a chance to hear the stories of others, not just on a city bus or at coffee time, but also when they're serving out in the communities in children's programs and soup kitchens and food banks, in hospices and different community centers, they're constantly impacted by different people throughout our host cities. They're invited to begin to discover what might a new vision be for them and to begin to test it out. So here's how you might use your own little piece of paper that you might have there beside you. And that's an exercise called community mapping. So we have a little bit of time, and I'm hoping that you might try this out. Now, I know that you haven't been on the Go Project for 11 days, and I know that we've only been together for half an hour, and I know that you can't actually speak with me other than by typing. But I just invite you for a minute to close your eyes, wherever you are. Maybe you're sitting on your couch, or at your desk at your office. Maybe you're listening in a Starbucks somewhere. I just invite you to close your eyes. I invite you to imagine that you're standing on the front step of your church, your house, or your community center. The front step that you're standing on, I invite you to make it the place that you feel you make the biggest difference in the world. And with your eyes closed, I invite you to imagine how your community is laid out. What are the sounds? What are the smells? Is it silent? Is it a gravel road? Is it a busy 4-lane highway? What do you see and what do you hear? Who is there and what is around you? Now I invite you just to take a minute and open your eyes, and I just want you to take like 30 seconds to draw just a chicken scratch map on that little piece of paper you have beside you. It could be a scrap, it doesn't have to be any particular kind of paper. And just take a minute to draw out your community. So I'm just going to be quiet for 30 seconds and just let you take a minute to do that. So if you joined us and you're kind of wondering what's happening, you're invited to just type your questions into the box at the bottom there. And Josephine, who's sitting there quietly, she'll filter those questions to me. And when you see one of these green screens with the Go Project logo, that's when I would be able to answer any questions and to be able to respond. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them because I'm really happy to answer them. So now on our Go project, of course, we would have taken much longer than 30 seconds to respond to this mapping exercise. Youth would have been given a very large sheet of paper and they would be encouraged to map out their entire neighborhood from the front step of their church or whatever building they chose. Maybe their high school, it may be their home, and they're invited to write down where in the environmental areas, creeks, streams, where do people live, where are healthcare centers, all sorts of things, and what are the needs in their community. Now that they've taken time to examine their community more thoroughly, now that they've taken time to roll with discovering their own story and the stories of others, now it would be time for them, while looking at their map, to identify in their community what are areas of need, what are areas of growth, what are areas that they feel passionate about to offer their gifts in service when they leave from the Go Project experience. So youth will often find one or two experiences. And when they do that, they're invited to use this resource called But Why. Now, and Josephine may need to help me with this, but if you look just to the right of Josephine's head, there's a little box that says Files, and there's something that says Michael Shewburg Handout 31 kilobytes. I believe that if you click on that, you can save it to your computer and open it. And you're going to get a document that looks like this. And it's going to have a whole bunch of boxes on it. This document is a great document and tool for discerning and visioning the experiences we have. So if you can't download that, you can simply just draw some square boxes on your page. Now, this is how it works. First of all, this document is from the book Remaining Faithful, which is a book that the United Church of Canada uses to integrate experiences of mission and ministry personnel who have served overseas. And the author is Julie Lupin. So here's how you do it. So once a young person has, or once you have identified a need on your map, that you could affect change in your home community, you begin to boil it down. So, for instance, one of the major issues in my neighborhood is in the school's backyard. There's often empty beer bottles and often dirty needles found in the playground. It's quite horrible, and many times people have tried to just go and clean this up and clean this up and clean this up. But they can keep cleaning it up as long as they want because the issue is going to be there. We can use but why to get down to the bottom of this issue. So for instance, if you put that example or whatever example you have in the top box and you ask yourself the question, but why, in regards to why does this exist, then you get a new question or a new pondering. So the next box might be, I hear that youth are doing drugs there after school. Okay, great. So why? Why is that an issue in your community? Well, I see youth wandering aimlessly in the neighborhood. But why? Well, there are no jobs available to youth. Well, but why? Because there are no opportunities available. So when you get down to the root of it is, the root of one of the problems of beer bottles and dirty needles being in the schoolyard is because there's no opportunities available in my neighborhood for youth. That's where we can begin to address the need. So you could start with anything. It could be the river is polluted. But why? Well, there's a factory upstream. Well, but why? Because we need tires to drive our cars. Why? So, there's lots of ways you could use this tool to simmer down. The point of the tool is that you need to address the issue that you've simmered down to instead of trying to address the issue that exists on the top. Because we can never solve the issue that by just addressing it at the top level. We need to work at the grassroots level. So that's how the but why exercise works. We've had youth on our programs actually do some amazing things. And for instance, one young woman was at the Go Project in Halifax 2 years ago. Her name's Victoria. She lives in Campbellton, New Brunswick. And she witnessed the Sunday supper program that happens every Sunday at St. Andrew's United Church as part of her Go Project experience. And at this meal where people come from all walks of life to join together, sometimes up to a couple hundred people, she was moved through this process of discovering her own story, discovering the story of another, using the but why exercise and the community mapping to create a food sharing program in her own community. And so once a month in Campbellton, New Brunswick, Victoria, with a whole bunch of other youth from a whole bunch of other churches, put on a food sharing program where people come and eat together. And after her experience on last year's Go Project, this program has spun out to create something called Go Play and Go Connect, where the adults go off and they connect together and the children go off and they play together. All from taking the time to discern how God was calling her to be active in her home community. So I've talked a lot about how the Go Project works for youth, and this year we're beginning experiments about how the Go Project can impact adults at our adult program, which is happening July 22nd to the 29th at St. Andrew's United Church in Halifax, and you're all invited to come and be a part of that. So if you're thinking, wow, I wish I could do this, you actually can. So in the United Church, in much of life, I don't believe that we take very much time to integrate our experiences. So, for instance, we go to church on Sunday morning, we hear songs, we hear prayers, we hear a great sermon, a reflection, a message, we see a liturgical dance, and then we go home. And we don't really take enough time to really integrate how that is sitting with us in our core. We go to a church board meeting, there's lots of debate about the roof, and then we don't take time to integrate, what does that mean in my faith life? We go to Bible study, we go to camp, we go to a UCW meeting, we're at Presbytery. There's all sorts of times when we might not take time to fully integrate. And when we take time to fully integrate through practices that I've offered to you tonight through the Go Project example, we then begin to understand more fully God's desire for us in our life. We discern, we listen to God's word for us. And when we hear God's hope for us, for service, we know that it is always rooted in the spiritual gifts that we've been given. We know that we can respond out of those gifts and in the world to make a huge difference for the world. So I believe that our experiences can be integrated more fully. So if we don't take time to discern, how can we hear God's vision? So we can use things like community mapping. We can be open to our community and conversations about our experiences. We can use this but why exercise. And the other thing that I didn't talk about or prepare a slide for, because I was actually nervous I wouldn't have enough time to do it, is to do spiritual gifts inventories, which David Ewart has a really great one for youth from New Westminster, BC. And that will help young people to boil down what are some of the spiritual gifts that they might have by filling out a simple questionnaire. So these are some of the ways that you can integrate your experiences. So I have talked a lot, and I'm really curious to know what some of your questions are. So I would really encourage you to give a shout out and let me know what sort of things you're thinking about. And then I can answer those.
Well, Ronnie has a comment here. I'll just share that with you. The project helps.
So Ronnie writes, the Go Project helps youth to identify their passions or a sense of vocation. Our youth came back with a passion for community gardening and are helping with our garden. That's great, Ronnie. I'm really excited to hear that the youth at your church have been inspired to be a part of community gardens. One example similar to that is from actually a leader came with a group of youth from a community in Alberta, and she was so inspired by some of her experiences of community gardening that 3 years ago she began a large-scale community gardening project in her community and is this year finishing up phase 3 of her community garden project. So what other questions do you have for me? Jess, if you're asking for the dates of the adult, yeah, I can't hear you, Josephine, so I'm not sure what's happening. So anyways, Jess, the dates for the Adult Go project are the 22nd to the 29th of July. And then we have youth programs. So if you're a youth leader and want to bring youth, which are grade 9 to age 19, to any of our other programs, you can do that as well. That's from July 1st to the 12th in Vancouver, Toronto, and Halifax. And then we have a second round of youth programs from July 22nd to August 2nd in St. John's and Toronto. And then our adult program is from July 22nd to the 29th. Ronnie, that's a really great question. How do we continue to support integration and reflection after youth have returned home? Well, there's lots of ways that youth arrive at the Go Project. Some youth come solo on their own from their congregation. They may have just signed up on their own. Other youth will come with a great youth leader, like, for instance, Ronnie, who brought some youth last year. And that youth worker can act as an advocate for their youth in their community. So when youth have a dream about beginning a project or continuing a project or heightening a project, it's often the youth leader or the minister or their mentor that can help them. And the piece that I left out telling about this story is that once youth have but wide and they boil down their experience, they're encouraged to create an action plan. So we're not just sending youth home with a little map and then a but why exercise. We're encouraging them to go home with an action plan. So they actually develop timelines, they actually develop goals, they develop a contact list of people they're going to connect with, and that allows them to measure their success in the development of their program. So that's one way, so they can reflect on their action plan. Beginning in September, the Go Project is actually hoping to move to a half-time ministry position. So we're going to be able to support young people in a more integrative fashion. And one of the models which we're hoping to fold out in the coming years is a Taking It Home event. In the Maritime Conference, we have been meeting with youth in the fall. So any youth from Maritimes that met up at a Go Project, they're encouraged to come to this event, bring their action plans and work with other youth and mentors to develop these action plans further. So that would be another way, Ronnie, to support and integrate and reflect. Sue, the action plan idea actually is how the Go project started for me, and it's rooted in an experience I had on the training and mission program in Cape Town, South Africa, and Madurai, South India in 2003, where I was encouraged to develop an action plan for something at home that I thought was needed in my home church community. And I still have the action plan, and I'm still working on it today. So that's one of the things we show our youth when they're encouraged to create an action plan, to say, over 10 years ago, Michael had this dream called the Go Project, and it's still being built. We still work on our action plans through lifelong. So I wonder if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about some of the things that we're going to be developing for the future of the Go Project. Great, thanks, Jess. I'm glad you're so excited, and Hillary. So a couple of the ideas and things that we've been working on are a program called Mini Go. So often churches are a bit hesitant to sign up for a full 11-day program. And so we can customize a program and come to your community and lead this program. So for instance, we were asked last summer to go to St. Thomas, Ontario to lead a program for a United Church camp staff for their year-end party. And we planned it all out in St. Thomas, and the 30 staff had an experience of the Go Project, including an abbreviated version of our workshop for them to live out their camp visions as well as their own visions in their context of going back to school this past fall. We've also done that in Mississauga, so we can roll out these programs anywhere. We have a group from Alabama coming later this month to Toronto, where we're going to do a Mini Go program for them. And so we can actually roll that out anywhere in the country, and our staff can come to you to bring this program to you and to introduce them more fully to Go Project experiences. And I correct myself, it's not just for youth. In the fall, we're going to be doing a Mini Go program for an adult Bible study group from Toronto. So there's lots of opportunities, and we can either come to you or you could bring a group to us. And the Mini Go program, thanks Sharon for that question, can be anywhere, any length that you want. So typically we've done sort of a 2-day program, sort of Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. It gives us enough time to sort of get together and get into some of the core issues of discernment and integration, as well as opportunities to serve in local communities. Another program we're really hoping to build starting this September, and hope that within a year we'll be able to launch it, is an opportunity for young adults to live together in community and to explore agricultural, art, and spiritual practices into a community living program where we come together and live in community and experience Go Project through service in our community and to explore that through agriculture and art. So yeah, Ronnie, definitely a Mini Go could be integrated with a confirmation program. So you could contract with the Go Project to come and work with a confirmation program, any kind of group. So actually this summer, we're developing with one of our previous staff at Islington United a vacation Bible camp program that's very Go Project oriented. So there's lots of different things that we can do with various age groups. So I'm wondering if other folks have questions. I know we have 10 minutes left, and I'm happy to answer those as well. I know some folks joined in a little bit after we started, so if you just joined in or you haven't said hello yet, maybe you could type where you're from and what your interest in this workshop was. That would help me to know if I've covered all of the different details that you might be sitting here waiting for. Sue, I know that, good question, Sue. So she said, if you were preparing a leader and group of 4 youth to come to Go this summer, what would you do? And that's said not just to me, so other people can respond to that as well. It's a really great question, Sue. I think that there's a few things that your church community could do, for instance. And one of the very powerful things when I've taken groups of youth on mission trips in the past, which the Go Project is not just a mission trip, it's more than that. And I catch myself saying that sometimes too. On an experience like the Go Project, is to create sort of a prayer opportunity for your community to be intentional about praying for young people, and for the young people to know that they're being held in prayer while they're away. So that's one thing that I found to be really powerful. Other things that you could do are to perhaps introduce young people to concepts of what it means to be in partnership with each other. So what is mutuality? What is mutual sharing? That's when we go to serve in other places, that it's not about us giving, but it's about a mutuality of sharing. And I think the other thing you can do to prepare youth is just to encourage them to be really open-minded and to be open to the experience. So, Miriam, you said, could you provide a bit more information about the community living idea? I think you said young adults working with agricultural and art sounds intriguing. Thanks, Miriam. So the idea is that we would invite young adults to a particular location, which we haven't decided yet, and they would be invited for up to 8 months or more to live in a community environment. So to live together, to share meals together, to share worship together, and to share their work. So they would work in agriculture environments, so developing food production, growing food, harvesting food, and also finding ways to bring that food into the community. So through food sharing programs, breakfast programs, markets, and to be established in a community which might not have the ideas of food sovereignty entrenched in them. So that would be one thing. And then the art piece fits into that, around how do we integrate our experiences. So to use art as a way to integrate more fully the experiences we would be having in those groups and in that community experience. So I'm not sure if that's helpful. It's okay, Barbara, that you're late. We don't mind at all. And your daughter's participating in the Discerning program at the beginning of July. And you're interested in doing the adult program with your husband another year. That's great. Cool. Well, I'm happy offline to chat with you about cubability. I don't know what that is, so I'd be happy to learn about that. Charles, welcome from St. Thomas. Welcome. That's great, Ronnie. So Josephine, yeah, more questions. Keep them coming. I'm happy to answer. I have to be more patient.
I'll try. I'll try coming back on again, Michael. I hope you can hear me, Michael. I think what's happened is we've been talking at the same time a couple of different times. Can you hear me?
You're welcome, Sharon. If you have any questions, please give us a call.
We're just trying to get
Oh, that's a really good question, Jess. I'm not
back.
sure. We're not sure at this point what the cost of the 8-month program would be. It's just in its early development stage, and it's at this point really just an idea.
Well, it seems that Michael and I are having difficulty hearing each other. I'm glad that all of you can hear both of us separately. So I think I'll just type in here, knowing that Michael's
I know
not
that
hearing me.
Josephine is talking, and I'm actually not able to hear what she's saying. And actually, Josephine, you're frozen on my screen, your video, so I'm sure she's saying wise and profound and wonderful things. While Josephine's typing, I'll let you know that the Go project, how we develop new sites, because that's often something that people are interested in. When we first began in Toronto, it was just we just invited people to come. You know, we just had this idea, and a few years later, Halifax was interested, and then Vancouver, and then St. John's. And we waited for those churches to express an interest to us. We don't recruit churches to be the next Go Project sites. The St. John's program was born out of a group of young people using the But Why exercise to develop a program in St. John's, and they worked at that for a whole year afterwards. Our newest program in 2013 is actually going to be in Stratford, Ontario, in London Conference, and it's going to be the first ever rural Go Project experience. So we're really excited about that. So. Thanks, Josephine. So I just want to say thank you for being here tonight, and I just really appreciate that you've all taken the time to come and listen to me ramble on about the Go Project, and to also maybe offer just a few little pieces and tools that you could use in your own context wherever you are. And I'm really happy to share more with you if you're interested. My email address, which I'm going to type in right now, is michael@islingtonunited.org. And I'm happy to communicate with folks further if you have questions. And we're really excited about the opportunities that the Go Project is offering in the church. And we're really excited about the youth that we get to encounter each summer. And we're excited to grow a little bit more. So thanks for being here, and I hope that everybody has a great evening and enjoys the sunset. It's setting where I am, and it's beautiful.
So hopefully Michael stays with us just for a moment. I'll say a few closing things, and again, we apologize for the difficulty in communicating between Michael and I. But I know on behalf of all of you, we can thank him certainly for his sharing with us tonight, and for the ideas and enthusiasm that he has for working with the Go Project, and the impact that it's making on so many areas of our church. So just a few reminders as we close. You will receive a copy of the evaluation form, or a link to it in an email, and we encourage you to fill that out. For those you know that
thanks
weren't able
everybody
to
for
be
your
with
thanks.
us
I really
tonight,
appreciate
there
it.
will
And
be a recording.
hope to see you all at the Go Project, and especially come to the Adult Go Project. We need you to be there. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be there. Laura Hunter from Maritime Conference, a really great leadership team, including Alana Martin, who's on the conference tonight, a global partner from Guyana. It's going to be really, really, really amazing. So I hope that folks will take the time out of their summer, those 8 days, and just come. Use it as your study leave. Use your study leave money. Apply for a learning and community grant. There's lots of ways to make it possible.
And we hope to see everybody again, so thank you very much.